All right, welcome back to part 3 in building our battleship in Python. And in this video, we're going to check to see if the battleship is hit. We're going to build out our turns, and then we're going to do one last demo to make sure everything ties together. So let's begin in that portion. All right, we have finished the placing of ships. So now we are ready to build out this count hit ships. All right, I'll explain how this works. So essentially we want to counter. We'll start at 0, and then we're going to loop through the board and find out how many X's there are, essentially. So we'll do 4 row and board, and the board is the one that we pass it, so it could be our guest board or actually the computer guest board, either one, depending on the turn. And we'll say 4 column in row. So basically, for each one inside the row, we're going to see, is there an X? So we're going to say, if there is an X, then increase that counter. And then as we loop through the entire board, we'll return the counter. And so later on, we'll check to see if that equals 17. If it does, we will quit, or the game will be over. All right, now let's build out our turn function. So there's 2 parts to this. One is going to be the player. The other one is computer. So I've got this block here for the player, and then this block here is for the computer. So essentially what we're doing is, if board is player guest board, so that would be us, we're going to do the row column. So if you remember how before we did row column orientation, well, we don't need orientation. So in this one, we're just going to ask for the row and column user input. So that'll come back up here in user input, and then it's not going to be place ship, but it's actually going to be else here. So it's going to be row and it's going to be column. All right, now we'll do a few checks. So first check is to see, is there a minus? So did we actually guess one that's already has a miss? And so we're just doing a safeguard to say, hey dummy, you already guessed that one. So then do the turnover. All right, and then the next one is going to be for checking to see if we already guessed there's a hit. So this isn't really necessarily for us, but also for the computer. Let's say it's randomly choosing and it hits the X already. We want it to take another try and play again. All right, so as we continued, so we haven't guessed a miss, we haven't guessed one that already hit. Then essentially the third one is there a hit? So we're going to check. So right now, as a player, we're going to check the computer board and to see if there's an X there. If there is an X, then we'll go ahead and place it on our board. So this is computer board, we're checking the computer, and then if that's true, then we're going to go ahead and place it on our board. And then everything else, let's say if we don't get a hit, then everything else on our board is going to be a mess. So essentially we're going to do the same thing, but if it's not the player, then it's going to come down here, it's a computer. The difference is here, now we have row column is random. So computer is going to choose between 0 and 7, both the row and the column. So same checks here for a miss, for already chose a hit, if it's a valid hit, or it's a valid miss. All right, now we can build out our run function in the game. Actually, before we do that, this is a simple way that I've done it here, is I'm going to run some of our functions. So place ships. So this is basically to the computer to generate. So we're basically placing ship function, and then we're going to pass the computer board. So if we come up here to place ships here, and it says remember if computer board, then we run this block here, and that runs the computer ships. Then we'll go ahead and print that board. This one here is just as I was debugging it, I wanted to see that it was running correctly, so we'll leave that in there. Then we want to print the player board. So this is going to be an empty board, so we can kind of see what it looks like in the very beginning. We only need to run that once there. And then place ships. This is similar to this one, but instead of computer, now we're doing the player board. So if we come back up here to place ships, instead of computer board, we're going to come down here and we're going to do our turn. All right, so we've done that. That basically gets the game started, and now we're ready to loop between us and the computer in taking turns. All right, so we're going to have some while loops. So the first while loop is basically going to run until someone wins the game. So that's this first one. And then we're going to take turns. So here's the player turn, and then here's the computer turn. So we're going to do another while loop inside for the player turn. So essentially, what we want to do each time is print out a message, say, guess your battleship location. And then it's going to print the board. So whatever our guess board is, we can see it each time that we are playing a turn. And then it's going to take the turn. So turn, player guess board. So come back up to turn. So turn, and then it's going to be passing in player guess board, and we're going to run through this from here, like we just talked about. After we're done, then we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll break out of this loop, and then it'll come down to computer. Or actually, it'll break out of this loop, and then it'll do one last check, and that is the function that we just wrote of count hit ships. So count hit ships, we're going to pass in our board. So if we come up here to count hit ships, passing in us, we're going to say, we're going to count how many X's there are. And if there's, coming back, if there are 17, then we have won, and we'll break out of this loop, and then the game will be over. If not, then it'll continue, and it'll now turn over to the computer turn. So it'll take computer turn, computer guess board, so come up here to turn, and then it'll come down here, and it'll randomly generate. It'll go through the checks until it has placed something on the board, and then it will print the board. And I'm doing this again just to kind of see that the computer is, I would take this out if I'm actually playing, but as I'm just kind of want to see how it works, then I'm printing it. And same thing here, count the ships. If it's 17, then the computer wins, and it breaks out of the loop for the game, and that game is over. All right, let's do one last demo here, and maybe we'll do another debug, just so you can kind of see how it works. Let's stop it right here and right here, both turns. See if I have any other ones. Yeah, we'll get rid of this one. We'll get rid of this one. All right. So now we can go ahead and run, and we can see what it looks like. So, all right, so now enter our orientation. So we went horizontal. We're going to do 1A, horizontal, 2A, horizontal. I know this is boring. 3A, horizontal, 4A, horizontal, 5A. All right, so now it, as you can see, it has started in my turn. So I'll go to the next step, and actually we'll just continue on. So it says enter row 1 through 8. So I'm just going to now, this is our guess board, so I'll just be boring, 1-8, or 1A rather. And now you can see it has turned over to the computer turn. So if we want, we can slow step here and see it is now generating a random row and column. So it looks like it's checking for that. So it didn't find there. Okay, so it's going to look for a hit. Didn't find a hit. Now it's going to look for if it's a hit. It looks like it was not a hit, so it's going to place a miss. So if we look, it's not printed the board yet, so we can't quite see. So let's keep going. So that is done. Now we're going to print the board. Print, print, print. Print, print, print. Print, 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 print. Keep printing. All right, now we should see the computer board. Okay, so it guessed 1C and it was a mess. All right, hopefully that helps and makes sense. I don't know if we want to keep going. All right, now it's going to go through and check to see if there's 17 ships. And it's going to go, this is going to go 64 times, so we'll just continue playing until my turn. All right, so now it's my turn. So let's go ahead and do row column user input. So first it's going to look for my row. So it's going to ask me for my row. I'll do 2 this time. And it's going to check to see, is it in the row 1 through 8? Yes, it is. So it's going to set that. Now it's going to check for the column. And my column, I'm going to do A. It's going to make sure that it's an A through H. which it is. It'll break out of there. Now it'll return row and column back to the user input. Now it'll check, is it a miss? Is it a hit? Or have I already played it as a miss? No. What about a hit? No. Is it going to check to see if it's an X? It was not an X, so now it's going to place a miss. So let's go ahead and do that. And then count to see if it's 17. So it's going to go through there 64 times. We'll just continue. And it will now, I didn't choose to print the board until the next turn, so we won't see it. I'll just go ahead and play. Yeah, there it is. And so there is our next ship. And you can see the computer has placed 2. So hopefully that all helps and makes sense. I'm going to end the series for now. I'm going to look at continuing building on, and well, I have some more capabilities here that I could potentially do in this project. I talked about maybe doing objects and classes to build those skills, and then maybe increasing the strategy of the computer so it does make it more challenging rather than random. But there were a lot of great advanced features in here and challenges that I thought were very useful. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have questions, comments, and I'll see you in the next video. So long.